Hi guys, it's Jimmy, and firstly, I'd like to apologise for not putting any content out for the last few weeks. Just been a bit preoccupied with work and stuff. But today, just had a thought run through my mind. I started thinking about all the tools that a watch collector, not a watchmaker, but a watch collector might need, and I thought I'll gather up some of the stuff that I use quite regularly with my watch collecting, and I thought I'd go through them and the reasons I have these certain items. Where do I start? As a watch collector, of course, you'll be adjusting bracelets and doing things like that, or removing bracelets to change straps and these kind of things. So for some of the not just entry level watches, because some high-end brands use them, but some bracelets that have the pins, you'll need, this is only a very cheap Chinese tool, but you'll need one of these. So all you do is place your bracelet in there, line up your pinhole, and as you compress it with this pin, they'll just pop out the other side. And then all you do is have a little set of pliers like this, and just grab the pin from the other side and remove it carefully, not to lose the pin. And then there'll be a collar inside the bracelet that you'll have to make sure you don't lose also. That's what compresses the pin into the bracelet. That's probably one of the harder bracelets to resize. You've got to be careful. As for most other bracelets that are like Rolex, they have screws, so you just need a decent set of screwdrivers. Originally, my first set, I just found a set of vintage Japanese screwdrivers, an original set here. You see it's got the original price on there. Well, the price is gone actually, but they're actually really high quality. And I've used them for a fair few years, and then I got myself some Bergeon screwdrivers. So a little kit from Watches of Switzerland, like a little travel case. And if I open this up, you'll see inside I've added a few extra things to it. Should make some room here. A couple of polishing cloths. I think this one is actually it's a Van Cleef & Arpels one. I've pinched that from my missus. This one is a Cartier, so they're good for cleaning and polishing. I've got a Nikon 10 times eye loop. This is high-end jewelry grade type of loop. I think Houdinki actually used to sell these, I believe. You need a well lit room. You have to get quite close up with this very strong loop. Good for inspecting vintage pieces. Got a small case back opener in here. These are great, these here, just for the generic type case backs. It's adjustable. It's only got the 2-prong compared to these with the 3. This is just a very cheap one, but so is this brass coloured one. But I'd rather go with the 2-prong. It's more simple to use, and if you're careful, very effective. Obviously, when you're using it, you don't lever from back here. You hold your hand over the lever so that you can't really slip off the case back. And if it's a stubborn case back, it's got a cheap clamp here. Put the case in here so you can hold this actual clamp. You get a better grip, and then attack the case back. And, hopefully not slip off it. And I've just got a Victorinox knife in here. I actually had this from when I was a kid, and I always wondered what this little bronze or brass blade is here. And I've realised it's a case back opener, because you can get this in a Bergeon, pretty much the same. You can see how patinaed it is. It's from the 80s, so I've had this a long time. Yeah, so repurpose that. Carried this one around in my pocket a lot when I was a kid. You can see by the age of it. This in here is a Bergeron polishing cloth, so it's an impregnated cloth with some kind of cutting compound, and it was really good on gold pieces for the polished center links and those kind of things. Comes up beautiful when you use this, so keep that in the plastic so that, yeah, so the impregnated cloth lasts a bit longer. Then on this side, just open this. So we've got a spring bar tool. So for hole through cases, you've got just the small pusher type end. These are removable, by the way. And then for this side, you've got the fork. Very high quality. Having trouble with the focus. So you've got that. 3 screwdrivers. Can't remember the millimeter size, but quite fine to. So you got this the black one's a very fine one. And then you go to the pink coloured one. And then this green one here, I think it's good for doing Rolex links if I remember correctly. It fits perfectly in the slot. Of course, they've got replaceable blades that you can put in them, which come in here. I think it's got you'll see these here. There's the different replaceable pieces. There's 2 or 3 in each one. And there's a little strop for taking care of the blades on the end of those screwdrivers. So there's a little leather strop. So those tools are all good for, like I said, changing bracelets. The case back openers are really only I use for vintage watches, in case I want to inspect the case, the movement, to see if it's got any generic pieces changed in there. And you want to make sure they're all original, especially when you're talking about anything more high end. Obviously, the loops, kind of, unless you were just admiring your new watch, to have a closer look, especially looking at APs and things like that with the dial surfaces, they're so amazing. And the case finishing, they're very interesting to look at with a loop. Otherwise, the loops I really use to look over vintage pieces. And firstly, I'll only use a very cheap loop. This here, you can see by the wear on it, it's a 5 time magnification. It's only a plastic lens, but it's just really good for having an overview of the watch, just checking it all over. And if you think you're spotting something that you really want to have a closer look at, obviously you'll go to this. Say you're concerned about the lume plots being touched up, or the hands, or something that's not quite right, or maybe maybe the dial printing's been mucked with, or maybe it's been redone. You want to get into this loop here. Although a lot of the time when you're in a dealer's shop, the lighting is not always that good, so sometimes it's hard to have a really close look. You're always struggling to find the right amount of light. And as another thing for vintage stuff, if you want UV light's always good to shine over the tritium or radium dials. Funnily enough, this one I pinched from my daughter, my youngest daughter. It come with some, I don't know what it was, some toy she had. When she had finished with it, it's a perfect little UV light. So that just stays in that travel pouch. What else? You can have a vernier if you like. I mean, if you really need to check, the width of the lugs, or I mean, if you think something's polished that badly that you want to check the outside of the lug to lug on each end to see how close they match, I mean, that kind of thing you can usually see by eye. You can tell how something's been polished good or if it's been polished terribly. Yeah, obviously for vintage Rolex, you need the Rolex tool, or you can get a generic copy if you like. I was lucky to get my hands onto an original one, so that's good. It's got the two main sizes on there, which is a 29.5mm and a 28.3. Yeah, what else? Well, they're the main things I use. Like I said, with I tend to use my loops a lot. I do like these here because obviously it holds onto your onto your eye. You just put it into your eye socket and have to hold it with your hand, leaving both hands free to hold the piece you're looking at. And this generic cheap one here, it fits my eye socket perfectly actually. Whereas I've got a couple of these AP ones, and I'll show you these are really nice quality. Comes with a little felt tip cleaner. They are larger, as you can see. Let me move them back. It is larger, and I have a problem with that. I can't hold it in my eye very well. It tends to want to fall out, so that would need the wire, like watchmakers wire that you put on that hooks around the back of your head, which I don't have. But so I just stick to using that cheap one, and then if I need to go to something better, I use the Nikon. And apart from that, I think that's all. Yeah, that's pretty much the main things I use. There's always a time where you think, oh shit, I need another tool, but I tend to get away with these. One thing I will say, when it comes to screwdrivers and especially screwdrivers, you want quality. Don't use any of that really cheap stuff. You'll just ruin the screws on the watch. Case back openers, you want something that, obviously if it's for Rolex case backs, you want to make sure, it's best if you can find one of these. They're not that dear. You can find these original ones for last time I was looking at them, sort of $300. But you can get the Bourgeon ones where there's got the whole set of different sizes. Yeah, but as for screwdrivers, go with the Bourgeons if you can. Spring bar tools, you can go with these sort of cheap generic ones, but you just can't compare them. Like that little cheap generic one, you can't compare it to the Bourgeon. So yeah, with those kind of tools, go for good ones. A loop for your standard 5 times loop, doesn't have to be anything special. These are quite good. Then if for a closer inspection one, obviously something like the Nikon's awesome. What else? You can obviously get the loops with the lights in them, but I've heard mixed things on them, that some people say nah, there's no good having a light on them. So I don't understand why. I have used them with lights on them before. Obviously the light creates a different color when you're looking at the actual dial, because of the light source itself compared to natural light. So obviously natural light is best. And apart from that, guys, that's the tools I use. I'm guessing all you guys that are collectors out there would have much the same kind of things. The only thing I really don't use here is the vernier. I got it and I don't use it. It's sort of pointless. Unless you want to be measuring things for some reason. And obviously when you are doing, when you're sizing bracelets on things like Rolex with screws, you want to use a bit of this Loctite. So I think this is like a medium. This one's a medium strength, I think. And if you're having trouble when you're trying to undo it, all you have to do is heat it up a little bit. So just warm up that bracelet and the Loctite will let go. So that's all I've got today, guys. So till next time, guys, stay safe and I'll see you later. Bye bye.